Blessed love, this is Ras Sekou representing for the Lion's Voice. Seeing? Yeah, man. Keep it locked right there, sir. On to Zion we go. Lion voice don't move slow, no. Rastafari rules and reigns, and we're going where the blessings flow. Keep it locked right there, sir. Seeing? Ras Sekou said that. Lion's Voice.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it's Exodus. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Rastafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like Ital. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
I will never stop, hail the Most High, and I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Empress Manel, and I young Science. Your universally unfold, be told. Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Yo, blazing fire, yeah man, this is Rasindio out of Belize, and the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, right? Yeah man, we blaze fire, burning the wicked and the dirty vampire. Yeah man, Rasindio said that, blazing fire, lion boy.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the Lion's Voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Yeah, David Trent of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the Lion Voice, because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here, hear me now. Yeah, the Lion's Voice. Raw.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Food that nourishes the body.
Ital Food Festival, Sunday, March 15, 2026.
This is Ital, a delicious celebration of plant-powered foods, conscious living, and shared wisdom.
Local artisans, marketplace, cultural performances, and fun for the whole family.
From 12 noon at the President's Grounds, St. Anne's. Ital Food Festival, Sunday, March 15th,
2026.
Ital is vital, vital, vital.
Yeah. Rastafari. Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Tell the people about Empress Mene. Well, even if the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, but to the coming war we stand tall. I will upside down. I will never hide, I'd rather stand my ground. Lion of Judah blessed with the triple crown. Can't come fool I with no circus clown. Now fear no hurricane or the cyclone. Respect for Mama Earth with that embedded on me bone. That's why I will never leave you alone. Protect you from harm when the alarm sound. So even when the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love. And even when the people start mal, but they see their city streets them flood, and the hurricane blow down our wall, by your side I mean I would think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your light was a lifeline. I think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. They say hurt people, maybe that's why Babylon them so evil. Maybe Babylon abused as a child. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Banso, aka the Chasmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Reading Ras on the front line. And we are really on the front line today. We just came off of doing a live broadcast about the Iran invasion that's happening right now, a regional war in the Middle East, World War III escalating. It's dreadful. The Straits of Hormuz have been closed. We've been talking about that on this program for some time now, and that worst case scenario has happened. So we're waiting now. The price of gas, the price of fuel, the price of food, everything is going to go up. But I'm not going to take too long. We have a co-host that the item love, the legendary Ras Sekou Tafari. Royal blessing, Ras Sekou.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear the eye now.
Okay, all right. Amon is trying to get in. You see him?
Yes, I see him.
All right, okay, all right, Sabah. Let me get off. Okay. All right. I'll get off the phone. All right. Okay. Give thanks, Ras Kwasi.
Yes, give thanks. And I apologize. This has been a very hectic week for us, so I didn't get a chance to send out the link as I wanted to. So I apologize for that. But I know we're going to have a riveting reasoning. We are, at the crossroads of history. Right now, we are watching things unfold that, just a few years ago, many people would have said is unfathomable or unthinkable. Before we get into today's topic, as my elder and as an astute observer of geopolitics, Ras Sekou, how do you feel about what's happening, and what is your assessment about what's happening right now?
Well, first and foremost, you see me properly, Ras Kwasi?
Yes, beautifully,
okay.
Beautifully.
Okay, what is going on is that the United States of America, which is a supreme power in the world, has made a serious blunder in that it has broken all the rules of international engagement. It has broken the rules of the United Nations by attacking a fellow member of the United Nations when negotiation was in progress. And this is not the first time. This is the second time within less than 9 months or not less than 6 months or 7 months that we have seen that taking place. And that what it tells me, as a political scientist, it tells me that the United States, as the native peoples said hundreds of years ago, that the white man or the pale man talk with forked tongues,
Hard.
right? And it hasn't changed. The pale man has not changed. His mindset has not changed. Now, who determines whether country should have nuclear weapons or not? America has nuclear weapons. Israel is ally who has been putting pressure on the United States under the new president, Donald Trump, to attack Iran. Is basically, so he is doing that. So this is not, as he will say, MAGA base and a
Yes.
MAGA, but this is not American first. This is Israel first, because it's Israel who is calling the shots. Because if you have a negotiation, who are you to determine the negotiation is not going your way? And therefore, you're going to pull out? Because that was always the intention. The intention was to wait until all the ships and the naval ships and so on reach into the what they call the Middle East, what we call West Asia.
Yes.
They were waiting for it to come in.
Northeast Africa too. It could be Northeast Africa too.
It could be Northeast Africa too, yeah, because it was part of, at one time it was part of Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, historically, geographically. So who is the United States or Israel to determine? Israel has nuclear weapons, which it got illegally. Israel got weapons of mass destruction, which it got illegally. So why it is they determine that Iran should not have nuclear weapons? Who is it? Who determines that? It's the same thing when under Nelson Mandela, once apartheid was broken, and the white regime, right, the white oppressive regime in South Africa had nuclear weapons. But when the black majority government came into being in South Africa, they determined that they must dismantle all the nuclear weapons that they had. And the whole idea is based on moral principle. The Ayatollah has passed an edict that said they don't want, for years they've been saying they don't want nuclear weapons because it's not something that are going to eliminate humanity.
Yes.
So how much when Trump says I'm not hearing them saying the words, but they've been saying it for 47 years.
Yes.
So what we have is a bunch of lies. They attack Iran on a bunch of lies, similarly to how they attack Venezuela, similarly to how they attack Iraq. There's no difference. Nothing has changed.
What we're gonna bring forward the guests. We're here to talk about books today, family. But Ras Sekou is one of our astute geopolitical elders. It's not every elder that keeps a pulse on what's happening internationally. So for the sake of the global lion pride, I want to have us benefit from the wisdom of our elder. Now, before we bring forward the guests, we have 3 powerful books. It's Black History Month. We're going to be going into Kemet, deep into Kemet, into the cosmic. I know a lot of the item are fans of the Kemetic aspects. I'm very interested of that part of our journey as well. So we're going to go into that. But we cannot ignore, again, where we are, because when the Straits of Hormuz is closed, this means that the price of food, gas, everything, that means it gets hard on everybody around the world. How does this impact Black people, Elder Ras Sekou? And from a Pan-African perspective, how should we be moving right now as Black people?
Well, the main thing is African people across the world, especially in the West, need to plant food especially short-term crops. Whether you're living in a small apartment or not, you got to utilize some part of it to start to plant little tomatoes and onions and garlic and ginger and so on. Because you if you gotta depend on the supermarkets and grocery stores to supply you with food, we're gonna have a big problem. Because the cost, as you indicated rightfully, the cost of transportation going to go up, because the price of gas going to go up, the price of petroleum going to go up. All these things going to go up tremendously, right? So all we're gonna have a straightforward economic disaster taking place, and that is a problem. I don't think that the those who running the regime here in the U.S. have analyzed this, or if they did, they don't care one fart about what's going to happen to the masses of people.
Thanks. Or we could say it's a plan to reset the order, you know. But
Well, the resetting has been going on for a minute now. As you know, you have been talking about the reset.
yes.
You've been talking about the reset. So yes, there's a reset, because what we in a state of what we call the NWO, the New World Order.
Yes,
Right? We say it's the Rasta World Order, but it's the New World Order as set up by the America is still fighting to obtain world hegemony. Right? So where you have balance of power in terms of China and Russia and so on, America wants to be the number one. And what it has done, because of the whole idea that America now has close to $40 trillion in deficit, right? And the things that are because of the $40 trillion brought on by making wrong decisions, right? Having over 800 bases across the world.
Serious.
And that is what has caused a lot of the deficit has eaten up. We have a $1 trillion put aside for what they call the military industrial complex this year, right? That is more than most countries, even GDP that they have. So the problem that we're facing here, the over 40 million Africans living in America, and we have a population of at least 340 million people. So we are bent towards facing hardship coming in the next few months, and similarly to in the case of Europe and so on.
So we have to come together. I think it's a chant. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? This is the chant that we have been chanting here on this platform for many years. So we do give thanks, and we have 3 powerful books. This is Black History Month. Tell us why you selected these books, and what are our 3 books for this episode?
We have Cosmic Science of the Ancient Masters by a man called Hilton Utima. We had him. He has a series of books over 40, 49, 50 books. European, but he was writing 50, 70, 80 years ago to lift the consciousness of people, not just black people or white people but just for humanity. So the whole idea that we know what the cosmic science is about, how we lift that consciousness. Last time we dealt with man's higher consciousness.
Yes.
So we have cosmic science of the ancient masters, and we know the African people has been one of the ancient masters in terms of how we study the spiritual science and the metaphysical science, and that is why we bring in Dr. Amon Saba Saakana, my dear brother, who specializes as an anthropologist, as a cultural anthropologist who has studied Kemet. So he going to deal with what what we call some people know him as Stat, So but he going to go back to the foundation and explain to you in his book, um, which is this book here. Um, and then we have Stolen Legacy, written
And it's
also by a African from Guyana, Mr. James. So I think we have three beautiful treats for the audience.
Well, you know how we do it. Reading Ras on the Front Line is an interactive show, so we want the Lion Pride to go to the website. We have it pulled up here. Purchase the book. Don't just listen. We are building the Trueberry. I am the Reading Ras, and we say that physical books, will be a precious commodity, because if the internet goes down and we see the rise of electronic warfare, you can be in a region where your internet is cut, you have no access to knowledge. Physical books will always be important, and this is why when you see wealthy families, you go in the mansion, they all have a library. You know what I mean? That is a sign of a family that intends to be around for a while. Generational wealth. Part of your generational wealth, part of your assets are your books, and the knowledge that you have access and that you can pass down from generation to generation. So each generation should be trying to accumulate different books. We have the modern ability now to go to a website and to purchase. So let us make sure that we do that. I know most of the item will watch this on the replay. So if you're not watching live with us, you're watching on the replay, make sure we'll put the link in the description as well. Click the link, go to the website, purchase it through Frontline Books, our sponsor and partner here on the Lion Voice Network, and let us make sure we circulate the dollar. We can look at the Straits of Hormuz, we can look at everything, but we okay. Can you let me know in the comments if you can hear my mic? We don't have any sound with the image, but if you can't hear, let me know. If you're watching live, let me know in the comments, Lion Pride, if you can hear my mic, if the sound is coming through. Can you hear me, Ras Sekou?
Yeah, clearly.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's start with this book that's on the screen here, The Cosmic Science of Ancient Masters. What can people anticipate with this book?
Well, what people can anticipate is, we know that the ancient masters, and there are many ancient masters, within the Rastafari nation, there's a lot of ancient masters like Bongo Watto, Bongo Time, Bongo Shevans, and all these, I would say, were ancient masters. But beyond even those modern day ancient masters, we have other ancient masters that go back to time. And we as African people can relate to some of the philosophies that we could read and could we pass down from generation to generation over the last 300-400 years, 500 years since we've been on this part of the world, in the Western Hemisphere. So the cosmic science, as you know what cosmic we're dealing with, it is a matter of the natural phenomenon of the sun, the moon, the stars, and that makes up the whole cosmology of in terms of the where we are as a people, not just dealing with today, but dealing with yesterday, dealing with the whole question of being able to when we call dealing with the ancestors, which is basically sometimes we could say is like astral traveling, right? And we that is where we know when we leave this planet and we expire, we evolve into another phase of life, and that is what the ancient masters has directed us to show us that life is a continuous process. Whether you get cremated. If you get cremated, you throw the ashes into the sea, but fishes eat the ashes. and there's a continuation of life by the fishes and so on. So people come and eat the fishes, continuation of life. Similarly, when you talk about if you expire and they put you under the ground, the worms and ants and other insects, and then life continue. So in terms of there's a continuation evolution of life as human beings, and that is why we as African people we hold on to the whole idea of ancestral continuation. So cosmic science of the ancient master is relating to what we as our ancient forefathers, right? Even though they were forcibly removed and captured and brought to the West, they held on to a lot of teachings were in what you will call in the memory bank, right? From that came from one generation hundreds of years. And even though they remove us and they force us and they beat us into Christianity into us and they peel skin Jesus into us, we still had that memory bank where we could relate to what we call African retention and so on. So this is when you talk about cosmic science of the ancient masters. We within Rastafari, I would say within Rastafari, there's the cosmic science there. And Rastafari I would say is a cosmic science. And we as part of this tradition, we when we will become what we will call part of that ancient masters in time to come. Give thanks.
Give thanks. Give thanks. All right, let's go to the next book. What's the next book before we bring in our guests?
The next book would be Stolen Legacy.
Yes, this is a
Stolen
popular.
Legacy.
This is a popular book in the conscious circle. Tell us about this book.
So this is a book called by George M. James, who was an African born in Guyana. As you know, Guyana, talking about what we now know as Guyana, it used to be called British Guyana at one time, and so on. But Stolen Legacy deals with the whole question of Kemet and where Kemet and Africa, right? Because for a long time when we were growing up in the 40s and 50s, those and so on, they used to tell us that Kemet, or what we know as what we call Kemet now, we call Egypt. They used to say it was not part of Africa, and they would tell us that Egypt was a different part of the world when Egypt is basically North Africa. And so when you talk about stolen legacy, we have lost the whole idea of the stolen legacy. We have lost the idea of being able to relate to our ancestors, whether they came from Nubia. As you know, Nubia had some of the most pyramids in the world, right? So even though you talk about Kemet, a lot of the pyramids that were built and still are there in Nubia, which is now Sudan, is part of that whole tradition. So stolen legacy is the Europeans have taken our traditions and has take them and stole them. If you go to in the British Museum, which is a place you should definitely visit, Ras Kwasi,
Yes,
you would see a lot of stolen items that were taken from Benin, taken from Nigeria, taken from Ghana, right? The stool, the Ashanti stool, and all these different things and so on, and were brought to Egypt, to Britain by these crooks and by these thieves. So stolen legacy will give you an idea of some of the concepts of where we lost things. When we lost these things as a foundation, they were stolen. But I wonder, probably Brother Saba, Dr. Saakana, could also, before he jump into his book, also talk about the whole idea of stolen legacy.
All right.
I would like him to, my dear brother, Amon Saba Saakana.
Yeah, let us introduce him properly. Give us a little background on who this brother is. He's heavy, So
I can say he is my brother. He's a brother of brothers to me. right? We go way back, long time from in the UK, and he has a foundation as a writer. Um, he has written many books, right? He has written many books. One of them, in relation to the Caribbean, he has written also one of the first books on reggae music,
Okay.
what we call jam music, right?
Okay.
When he was in a different dispensation, still carrying the slave man name, right?
Okay.
Slave master name, right? But he has done a lot of research and continue to do a lot of research, even as we will say now, in his ancient years, right? So I think that we would benefit, and the show would benefit from him being able to, as an anthropologist, as a man who have published books by Cultural Unity by Sheikh Anti Jupe.
Okay.
He has published other books by Professor Ben Obinga, who was a student of Sheikh Anti Jupe. He has published books by Metuneta, by Dr. Professor Jacob Carruthers, and so on. So
Okay.
he's not a lightweight. Just might have been underestimated
no.
in certain circles, but he's not a lightweight. He's a heavyweight.
So
You know.
so so let,
So when
let
you're
me
talking
bring
about
it
a heavyweight
forward.
like Muhammad Ali,
Let me bring
we
it
talking
forward
about
here.
Amon Saba Saakana.
Can you adjust your camera there for us, Dr. Sakana?
Brother Kwasu is not being heard.
You're not hearing? Greetings. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm not hearing Brother Kwasi.
Greetings, can you hear me?
I'm hearing Sekou loud and clear, but not Brother Kwasi.
You're not hearing I. Check. 1 2 1 2. Ras Sekou, can you take control?
Yes.
Voice came. All right.
Yes. My dear brother Saba Saakana, you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Could you as a cultural anthropologist and a writer of the highest esteem, author of the highest esteem, before we get to your book, I would like you to tell us, the audience, what you think about stolen legacy and why you think it's still relevant today for African youths, whether they are in the Western Hemisphere, Africa, or wherever they are. With Stolen Legacy, written by George James, I think is a classic, and I would like to hear your take on it. And thanks for being part of the program.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
You give us your views now, Dr. Saakana.
Let me just say that George James can be considered.
Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you perfectly well. Can you hear me?
Saakana?
I'm hearing you.
Amon?
I can hear you, but you're not hearing me.
I think I lost him.
No, I can hear you.
I hear both of you. I don't know
Saakana?
what's happening with the sound.
Yeah,
can you hear me? Can you hear I?
Now.
You can hear I?
You hearing me?
Yes.
I'm hearing both of you.
Yes. Can you hear Ras Sekou?
Yes.
Kwasi?
Yes, I can hear the I. I hear the I.
Okay, good, right.
Greetings?
I was saying
yes,
that George
I hear
James.
the I, Ras Sekou. I hear
okay.
the I.
Okay.
Hold
I was
on.
saying that George James can be considered a pioneer in the sense that the area in which he was dealing with was not dealt with as an academic subject by African scholars. Very few people were into that kind of study with any depth. So he was an exception. One of the unfortunate things I think of James is that he relied on primarily on translations done by other Europeans. That he never studied Medinachet itself. So I think a number of things he missed out in terms of the extent of the history of philosophy emanating from Kemet or ancient Egypt.
Okay. Why was Kemet so special of all of these ancient African civilization? We're always hearing about Kemet, Nile Valley, but what was unique about the Nile Valley civilization?
It has first of all, Kemet has a very long history in terms of scientific activity. There's been in an area called Naphtha dated to 7,900 BC. There was what they call a calendrical map using huge stones, which were directed at the heavenly bodies. In terms of Cyrus, the Orion constellation, and so on. That was established in 7,900 BCE. That's number one. Number two, there were people who were inhabiting the Green Sahara in the 8th millennium BC. Most of them were migrants who came from areas like Chad, came into the Nile Valley, and were in what we now call the Sahara. At that time, the Sahara was green. And we already know that by 3,500 before the birth of Christ, there was found in the Nile Valley mummification, which Egyptologists believed only occurred in the Old Kingdom, in the dynastic period of Kemet's history. So I'm just saying there's a scientific chronology which begins millennia before the birth of a united Kemet in 3150 BCE. And that knowledge has been inherited or transmitted by the ancestors, and it contributed tremendously to the development of scientific principles, the foundation of scientific principles. Once you have obtained those principles, they can be applied to any genre of scientific thought, whether it's to do with chemistry, whether it's to do with mathematics, any science you can think of, those scientific principles can be applied to them. So we have monumental architecture being constructed in the pre-dynastic era.
Yes.
We also saw magnificent trade taking place.
Yes.
Not only within the borders of Kemet, but also beyond its borders in places like Lebanon and Syria. Those places in which, in the pre-dynasty, before the birth of the first pharaoh,
yes,
there was already trade taking place. Not only that, there were wars taking place as well, conquest taking place.
Okay.
Yes. So we have a long history of political, scientific, and architectural activity taking place in the Nile Valley long before the birth of Kemet as a nation.
Okay. And there's,
and that has continuously influenced dynastic Kemet throughout its 3,000-year history. Because what happens is that some of the pharaohs, or the Nissu, what is properly called, when he came to power, some of them would go and research the old texts which contain the wisdom of the ancients, in which help them to solve new problems.
Okay. Does Kemet or those Green Nile Valley period, does that predate Sumer you know, they talk about the Mediterranean and the civilization that rose up between the Tigris and the Euphrates. In your research and your
No, it appears that the the civilization you're talking about that took
yes,
place in an area called Turkey today,
yes,
but founded by people of African descent.
yes, Globeke Tepe and these monuments.
Exactly.
Yes.
Founded by people of African. That was before the beginnings of Kemetian civilization. That's
Yes.
dated to 10,000 BCE. Kemet's oldest monument that we know is 7,900. That's the astronomical calendar made of stone in Naphtali.
Okay. But of course we can see that no other African civilization built such edifices of grandeur, you know, the megalithic structures, the precision, and we know about the Great Wall of Benin, we know about Great Zimbabwe, Lalibela. So we're not saying that Africans did not master architecture or engineering on, you know, divine levels in other places, but Kemet is special. What do we attribute that special gift to Kemet? Why Kemet and not some of these other places having this?
If you look at United States, is the United States not a conglomeration of nationalities from elsewhere?
Yes.
Did people not come from Europe, South America, Africa, all over, and each contributed scientifically, culturally to the development of the United States? This is not formalized in their histories, in their mainstream histories, but it is recorded nevertheless. Yes. And I think that is the key point when we make any comparison with United States and Kemet, that in Kemet it was a place of settlement. For example, the Canaanites from Canaan, who were people of African descent, were living in the north of Kemet. In the pre-dynastic, not just the dynastic period, they were settled there in the pre-dynastic.
Okay.
And they were trading with Upper Kemet, Nubia. And at some stage, the Nubians conquered by war under Scorpion, a pre-dynastic king, Onisu, conquered northern Egypt by force of arms.
Okay.
And united the country. So you had the first state in the world at 3,150 or 3,200 BCE taking place, not just through peaceful means or just through trade, but by war.
Okay. And what was the name of that pharaoh or king?
He was called, that's the only name we have for him, is Scorpion.
Scorpion, okay. Scorpion King.
Scorpion King. He was the first to have done it. And then the person who came after him, 50 years or 100 years after, a man referred to as Nama or Menes.
Menes, okay.
He repeated the conquest again.
Okay.
By uniting the whole of the Nile Valley from Upper Kemet to Lower Kemet, down to the Mediterranean Sea.
Okay. For us as Rastafari, we put great significance on Ethiopia, modern Ethiopia being the foundation of the Nile River, Lake Tana. We also know that there were more pyramids in Sudan than in today what is known as Kemet. You know, you can see the smaller step pyramids and then, you know, different sophistication. It is said that the people of Kemet look to Sudan as the birthplace of their gods of Ra, etc., that they look to the south in terms of their legitimacy and their ancestry. You know, as someone who has researched Kemet, how do you subscribe to the theory that the civilization came down the Nile into Kemet? And how does that reconcile with what was happening on the Sahara during the Green Period and this confluence of people, or are these developments happening simultaneously? You know, how do you reconcile the migration of Africans coming from the source of the Nile down out into that Nile Valley, and then the Sahara period?
Well, it's not just the source of the Nile.
Yes.
It's along land routes as well.
Yes.
They came through places like, as I told you, a lot of them came from Chad.
Okay. Chad.
8,000 BC. They were already there.
Yes. And then we have and Uganda as well. The White Nile coming in from Uganda as well.
We have a lot of migration, and some people speculate as far as West Africa.
Okay.
Right. So there were many migrations taking place in stages, and there didn't appear to be any conflict, any physical conflict, or any cultural conflict among those peoples. So they because they settled and they don't have war, they have time to devote to scientific development and speculation.
Okay.
If you live in a society that has less war, it's more time you will have to develop new ideas and invent new things.
Yes. Peace. Can you hear us?
So yes, the civilization flow is undoubtedly and without question emanating from the southern areas of Kemet.
Okay. How do you feel about the attempts to whitewash this history? Because we were taught that, you know, Kemet was a Caucasian race, which, you know, never kind of made sense given the climate. But even to this day, I see Egypt, you know, there's an attempt to now say that the people of Kemet were Arabs. You know, how would you counter some of these claims that the people who control Kemet today are the ancient people of Kemet? How do we refute?
Well, let me put it in a scientific or academic context. First of all, the most important thing that happened in that debate about the origins of the ethnicities of ancient Kemet took place at the Cairo Conference in 1974, in which I think it was UNESCO who sponsored it under Mokhtar Mbao, a Senegalese scholar and administrator. And all of the leading Egyptologists in the world were invited, and only 2 Africans were invited, Sheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga.
Okay.
Diop told Obenga to address only the linguistic question, and he will handle the rest. Regardless of what may have been said at the time by opponents of the idea of an African origin of Kemetian civilization, what is significant is that the summary made by Professor Sonorin, when as the Rapporteur General, he made a summary in the collection of the contributions of that 1974 debate. And he said that UNESCO sent out very exacting requirements, and only the scientifically grounded work of Sheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga measured up to those requirements. And consequently, he said, there was a complete imbalance in the debate. So since that time, there is no person calling himself an Egyptologist in Europe or America who would ever say that Kemetian civilization originated by whites. They themselves, since then, have soundly, cohesively, comprehensively repelled that notion.
Okay. But do they say it's Arabs though, or what is
The
the?
Arabs say it's Arabs, not Europeans or Americans.
Okay, okay.
And there are many well-known fights by people like Robert Bauval
Yes.
against that so-called Egyptologist Zaki Hawass,
Yes.
who was once the who was the minister of antiquities.
Yes.
But that's neither here nor there, because he
Yes.
has
Yes.
no
Yes. Yes.
scientific reputation as an Egyptologist or historian in the world. So nobody pays attention to that. And he's already maligned worldwide by many people, both people of Euro-American origins and people of African origins. So that debate is a non-starter.
It's a non-starter. I'm happy.
It's already been demolished.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that. Let me see if we can get Ras Sekou sound working here. Ras Sekou, are you there? Can you hear? All right, let me.
In the meantime,
Yes.
I'm just about to say that George G.M. James, because of his limitations in not learning Medunetia, he was able to use translations by Egyptologists, and his book is more response to the assertions and the research work of European Egyptologists rather than an original work. In 1948, even before James, Diop had already refuted those notions in scientific terms.
Okay.
Right? I mean, he did 3 PhD theses. 2 of them were rejected, and the final one was affirmed only when he brought in African and African Caribbean scientific experts who debated with the governors at the Sorbonne, at the end of which to give him his PhD. So there has been a formidable resistance to accepting the reality of Africans as origins of civilization. But once a people become enslaved and their civilizations are destroyed, they are no longer in a position to do anything.
Yes.
It's only in recent times that we're able to make a more profound impact from the bottom, where the people those in the mainstream have accepted a lot of those notions and it totally integrated in their ideas.
Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. Ras Sekou, can you hear us? We're going to try to get Ras Sekou forward into the reason we're having a little technical difficulties. If you're watching live, we have renowned scholar Dr. Amon with us, and we are talking about sacred legacy. We're going to go into his book, some of the cosmology, because I'm very interested about the cosmology of the ancient Africans and what lessons that it can teach us. Can you hear us, Ras Sekou?
I'm hearing you now.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we hear the eye loud and clear. Do you have any questions on sacred stolen legacy before we move on to our feature book and our feature author?
Yes.
Well, you ready to move on?
No, anybody have any questions on stolen legacy?
Put it in the comments if you want to ask any questions about stolen legacy. And now we're going to move into the feature. the feature book
is
let me see if I can bring it up on the website here. Okay, explain what is this book about?
Okay. Number one, the name of the person who people refer to as Source or Hermes.
Okay.
Those are not original Kemetian names. Source is a Greek name in translating the word Jehuti into Greek. And Hermes is the name of the god of wisdom amongst the Greeks, which name they placed on Jehuti. Amongst the Romans, it's Mercurius. Amongst the Arabs, it's Idris. And amongst the Iranians, it's Hoshank. They have different names for the same central person, central figure in the history of philosophy. And his proper name is Jehuti.
Jehuti.
Okay.
Who is Jehuti? What is his origin according to the tradition?
According to the tradition, he is of Kemetian birth. There's no biographical information anywhere about him. All there is a book that was recently put together, not recently, a few years ago, by some Czech scholars called the Book of Source. And you could see that the writings in that were composed around dialogues between the master and the student. The same format that Plato and the other Greek scholars took in writing their books.
Okay.
They had a dialogue amongst themselves, discussing various things. It was not a scholarly undertaking with a primary thesis that we have today. It was discussing things in many ways, dialogues between each other or amongst each other. So that book, the Book of Thought, is the only evidence we have of the age of the philosophy of Jehuti, and that goes back to the Old Kingdom. And all of the ideas that we know about, he was known as the inventor of writing. They had a school of priests in Kemet who were teaching from his books, teaching from his ideas.
Okay.
Students were being trained on his ideas for centuries.
So
it's only when the Greeks came
go ahead.
that they found this information, and later the Romans, more than any other, canonized him to a great degree, whereby it's referred to in European terms as the Hermetica.
Okay.
Have you heard that term before?
No.
The Hermetica. There's a book called the Hermetica, translated and also commented on by a gentleman whose name I've not forgotten. But the Hermeticum is properly called. And that was a translation of Greek texts by the Arabs in around the second to the third century in our time, right?
Okay.
And that book exposed the elemental philosophies of Kemet, which was adopted by Arabs, by Romans, and by Greeks. And that came to have a great deal of importance to the foundations of moral philosophy in Europe. And this is where the Renaissance resurrected his ideas by discovering this text. And that text was fundamental in the transformation of the moral fiber of Rome, which was overrun by Vatican criminals and who were murdering people up and down Europe who professed traditional belief systems and traditional healing systems, were burnt at the stake, imprisoned, beaten, tortured, and so on. So in the face of this, these new philosophers based in Rome challenged the foundation of the church by emphasizing the moral aspect of man, which they received from their readings in the book of the Kemetian.
Okay.
Most of those who were accused of secreting a foreign philosophy into Rome recanted; otherwise, they would have been killed. The only one man who remained unrepentant was Giovanni Bruno, and he was actually burnt with live fire and refused to recant. Right? So that is the kind of barbarism that characterizes the church and the higher echelons of European society in every country.
Yes. Was Jehuty seen as a mortal man who became divine, or was he seen as an immortal who dwelled among, a divine who dwelled among mortals? According
As I said, there is no biographical data on Djehuty that we know.
Okay.
But we do know that there are conversations of philosophical sort in the book of thought that was put together by these Czech.
You see this book on Ras Kwasi?
Yes, I.
This is thought, right? The Hermes, right?
Yes.
This was published some time ago, maybe around about 1930 or so.
Yeah.
Earlier. But this was one of the books we knew about thought. That's how I knew of thought myself as a person involved in the writing systems. And so we were all fed the information that like thought it's not an original name as Dr. Saakana rightfully pointed out.
Okay. Because what I'm trying to figure out is, did we know the Greeks and the Romans elevated him to divine, but how was he seen to the indigenous people of Kemet? Was he?
No, he was seen as a human being.
Okay.
Who lived in the olden days.
In the olden days. Okay.
As you well know, there is a dual vision that applies to kingship. Just as the sun endures, and the sun and the moon and the stars and the planetary bodies endure forever, those qualities were invested in the king as a ruler. So the king was seen as being divine.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea of divinity and kingship resonated in many African societies, East, West, North, and South. And has even resonated, not surprisingly, among Rastafari itself.
Exactly. That's how I was getting to that.
These are traditional African ideas that have been incorporated by Rastafari, but using the text of the Bible.
Yes.
using the text of the Bible, but going deeper than the Bible, because they brought new interpretations to a lot of ideas. Things that were written there, they went beyond that by
Well,
comparing with their own lives, their own traditions, and their own history.
if we go by the biblical text, you know, the Hebrews were greatly impacted by Kemet, because the whole reason that there was a written Bible according to the biblical text is because Moses was educated as a prince in Kemet. You know, this is according to the Hebrew own tradition. So, no, regardless of how you look at it, Kemet, the influence, and some people would say the 10 Commandments is modeled after the 42 laws of Ma'at, and
Negative confessions.
yes. So how do you feel about that kind of connection?
No, it's not a feeling, you know. It's a scientific research that has been done.
Yes.
And it's been done by Europeans who established those ideas.
Yes.
Long before any African said that, Europeans themselves had already made the comparison between the 103rd Psalm and the writings of a pharaoh, admonitions of a king to his son.
Okay.
And all those ideas were already there. Many biblical stories are in fact Kemetian stories.
Okay.
That they revised. Like, for example, Moses parting the water.
Yes.
Right? There was a scene in a Kemet tale where a prince is out on boating with a girlfriend, with his fiancée, and her ring drops in the water, and she shows shock and horror, and he utters a prayer and strikes the water, and the water opens up, and he goes down and picks the ring up and gives it back to her. Those things are already extant in the philosophical tradition of Kemet.
Okay.
And it may sound impossible to believe, but I believe that human beings, had those powers at those times.
That's where I wanted to take the conversation, because we're learning that ancient societies had a lot more knowledge than previously thought. You know, when the archaeology is showing us, because we still can't do what they did in Kemet in terms of architecture, alignment with the heavens, you know, all of the sophistication. You know, when we look at the Ethiopian tradition of the Book of Enoch, it speaks about the fallen angels and, you know, these beings that descend to earth and give man certain knowledge and information. How did the Kemet, you know, how did they see their origin? We talk about Isis and or Heru, and what was the origin, or how did Kemet see the origins of their gods or their divinity?
Well, it emerges from one idea of a god, right? And the oldest one goes this way. He says, when I was in darkness, when I was covered in chaotic waters, I emerged by myself. He didn't say that he created the world. He said the world was pre-existing, and he was emerged in darkness in that world. And out of that world, he emerged and created other things after emergence. Now, that has a lot of scientific implications.
Okay.
You hear about dark holes.
Yes.
You hear about the gravity of the dark holes. And it also, when it bursts or explodes, it can also create new life forms. So when they give a parable, they don't tell you explicitly X, Y, and Z, because it's a way of keeping information secret within the craft, the priesthood. Only very few people were priests. There were very few people who were educated in Kemet, you know. It's not the population.
Yes.
You were invited in
the mystery schools
to become a student.
Yes.
And if your character failed, your moral character failed, then you cannot go beyond a certain level and you'll be removed. So that kind of information was kept to a very small group of people. Once they are destroyed, the society is destroyed. Let me give you a good example of existing scientific powers. I have a gentleman by the name of Professor Ume, who wrote a 2-volume book on the Dibia. The Dibia is equivalent to the Babalao. It's a compound word, Di meaning master of, and Abia meaning knowledge. His father was a Dibia, and his father had certain scientific skills. He would visit from Inobi in the eastern area of Nigeria, clients 100 miles away. And he would go there on a broomstick, fly on a broomstick. And my friend, Professor Ume, did all the formal things, got an education in Nigeria, and then he got a scholarship to go to Cambridge. And as the day he was leaving, he asked his father to show him what to do to have the power that he has. The father said to him, "Who will plant your food? Who will cook your food for you?" In other words, these powers are attained through spiritual means. It is not just a question of you working it out scientifically, X, Y, and Z. If you do this, the broom will levitate and so on and so on. No. There are certain things that you have to do. And when I visited Ibolan in the village of Enobi, his uncle, he was 90 years at the time.
Yes.
He was the chief priest to Edimili Shrine. Edimili is a female goddess. And he had assigned to him a relative by the name of, I think it's called Noadibia. No, Ochukudubia. And his job was to plant his food and prepare that food for him throughout his existence.
Okay.
So those things were not attained easily. And you would have to have a tremendous amount of belief and staying power in order to reach that stage of being granted that kind of knowledge.
Discipline.
Because it calls for lots of sacrifices.
Yes.
And this is why all over Africa, the great sages did nothing during the slave period. There was one man I was given this story during slavery times, again in the East, and he would bet people that he would be enslaved and free himself. And they would catch him and tie him up, and he'll walk a little distance, and then he'll free himself. Those knowledges, they don't pass them on. So once that person is dead, the knowledge is dead with him.
Fatal flaw.
I beg your pardon?
Fatal flaw. Ras Sekou, I'm going to turn it over to the eye. Any questions and or reasons?
Yes.
Of your brother?
Was Kwasi was saying fatal flaw in terms of that he thinks and that is information that should not be buried with a person. That information shouldn't be buried with a person. That is information that should be passed on from one ancestor to the current before they go to the ancestral realm. They should be able to pass that on at some stage. People must be able to be fitting or deserving to be able to know that.
So let me answer that question. I want to answer that point you made.
Mm-hmm.
My friend and author, Professor Ume, gave me a very good illustration of what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He said there was an old man in a village. He was over 90 years old,
Mm-hmm.
who had the power to change himself into a leopard.
Mm-hmm.
And the village elders came together and asked him to teach his eldest son that technique. And he said his son doesn't have any control over his emotions. He can get himself in trouble, and he could be revengeful and do wrong things. So to say, okay, give it to the oldest man. He said, if I give it to the oldest man after me, that man is a revengeful man, and he could use it against me. So they insisted that he must do something. So he said, okay, I will give a trial to my son. He gave him a leaf wrapped around his wrist when he was going to do masquerade, perform masquerade. People think carnival is a European. It's not. It's an African thing. Eh? So the son dressed up in his costume, and he confronted another masquerader, and they both started speeching each other out. And this I've seen as a boy in Trinidad. I've actually seen that, the same kind of scenario. And the other man was speeching him in a very powerful way, and he was losing the battle. So he grabbed his hand.
Saba interjection.
Yes.
That reminds me like of rubber talk.
Yes. Yeah, but I'll come back to that in a minute. And he pulled the leaf off his hand, and a swarm of bees came down and bit everybody up. So he said to the council of elders, you see, this man doesn't have the rational ability to control his temper. He doesn't know how to deal with crises in his life. When he's confronted with a crisis, he doesn't know how to deal with it. Therefore, by giving him that, he could create a lot of havoc in our society. So he died without passing it on. But the important thing is this: even beyond death, if someone is deserving of it, it can still be passed on spiritually.
How? In the visions?
Yes. That person could come in the form of a dream, a very vivid dream, and transfer the information to a person if that person is deserving of it. It happens today, regular, today.
Yes.
It happens in today's world, right now. Yes. It's still happening now in the Western world, amongst African people. That happens. That happens as well. You know, people receive gifts beyond the grave.
Yeah.
So
what inspired you as an author to look at the question of the origination and the original name for thought? Because for years we've been learning and hearing about thought. I myself, Frontline, published this book on thought years ago, and this was done probably somewhere in the 1930s or something like that. So, what would have made you want to rediscover this name to Jehuty?
Well, I did a formal course after I finished my PhD in Egyptology. I wanted to have more profound knowledge of Egyptology because it's a popular form of Egyptology that a lot of people in the world, Black people especially, know about. And that popular form doesn't have great substance. I will tell you that now. It does not have great substance because there are a lot of knowledges that are out there that are secreted in specialized journals and specialized books. And if you don't subscribe to those books or those journals, the only way for you to get them is to go to specialist library. I did 4 years at a specialist library in London, looking at all the books that they had, pamphlets, essays, in order to get deeper knowledge. And the amount of information that is out there is literally amazing. We haven't scratched the surface on a popular level, as most people talk about. That's on a popular level. But the deeper level, profound ideas are not really properly researched. And that is what is called for. It's called for deeper research rather than the popular thing. Just repeat popular things. You know, we have to know about Kemet. We hail Kemet, yes, as a great scientific standard in the world. But we also don't look at, it also had an empire mentality tied to it. The Nubians, for example, in the 18th dynasty, were conquered by the Kemites in order to extract gold, to mine gold, and the use of granite and marble in their areas. Mountains have been raised to the ground. Fortifications were built in Nubia by the Kemites in order to defend the territorial conquest of the area. People don't talk about that, but that's a fact. Prisoners were tied behind their backs. Ears were cut off. Noses were cut off. Heads were cut off. That was done since in the pre-dynastic. So it also had an empire aspect to its reign, but we don't dwell on that. All we talk about is in relation to the West. The West's history, Kemet, I say Kemet because the word is Kam. Kam means black. It's not Kem. The vowel E is conveniently used by Egyptologists. But in the language of Africans in West and East and in the South, the root word is Kam, which means black. Okay, so I don't say Kemet, it's Kamet. Okay, so what I'm saying, in order to excavate information, serious research has to be done. And the scholarship standardized by people like Sheikh Anta Diop and Teofilo Benga are of the highest level that we should subscribe to imitate and use it as a benchmark, as a model for further research. Don't stay on the surface level. Go to the depths and excavate information that we understand ourselves better. Don't say only the colonists did this and the colonists did that. Africans were fighting each other before the colonists arrived here. Shaka moved from a small tribe of 15,000 to hundreds of thousands by conquest. The wars in Liberia and Sierra Leone before the Europeans came amongst the Yoruba and the other ethnic groups is by war. The Oyo Empire was defeated by the Ife people by war.
Was there a difference? Was there a difference between we as Africans carrying out colonization among ourselves?
Yes.
And what is the difference?
The difference
you will outline.
Yes.
Looking at Kamat and looking at Europe.
Yes.
How you even today, looking at what took place in what we call the Americas, with the European colonizers and the native people, or what some people say native, but there were other people who were here as well. And even today, even further, in terms of the so-called Israelis, when they go to Israel, what they call Israeli Palestine, and conquer Palestine. And if somebody come today and from America or Australia, they come to Palestine and you live in there, they take over your house and you have nowhere to live. And that is one of the most modern form of colonialism and so on. So how you explain the
Yeah,
differences?
there is a difference. There's a fundamental difference in the way in which empire was built in Africa and the way empire was built in the West. The fundamental difference is this way. The conquered society was incorporated. There was no job the conquered could not aspire to and receive in the new dispensation. That was absolutely not possible in the Greek and Roman tradition. And still is. That mentality still rules the world today. There is no incorporation. There might be incorporation of one or two, a very few among the number of people, but the population were never incorporated. And there were no restrictions placed upon the type of jobs that they could do or execute. But there were restrictions placed upon the conquered in Western societies, and they were not incorporated.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yes. That is a interesting difference. Rasquasi, you want to add anything there? Any questions?
Yeah, in terms of I like to.
Rasquasi?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, but
I
Kwasi,
like.
he not hearing.
Can you hear me?
But,
Can
but
you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me.
Can you? I can hear. I
All
can
right.
hear that.
I in reading Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, and it draws the point of why the European went into Africa and how they break down the African land. How would you compare that with what is taking place today? Some people, when they look at what's going on in empire today, we saw Britain had a long run, and up until around 1945, you have the American Empire. How do you look at that compared to what the foundation of what was taking place in Kamat?
The most of the empires, including Britain, there's also a French Empire too, because the
Yes,
French
yes,
carved out
yes,
a notch all over the world.
yes,
The difference is this: they go externally in the outside world to reap the material benefits that they brought back to their own society for development. And over time, they developed a social system whereby the working class was liberated from their history, in which they could not socially climb the ladder to success. They remained in their serf condition for hundreds of years. So when this conquered money, this ravaged money, this murderous money that was accumulated by all of the great powers, by France, by Britain, by America, came back, it channeled out into the working class, and they have certain access to basic social and health treatment that wasn't there before, and is affordable for them now. At the same time, it depleted the African societies of the ability to recoup because they were being sat on by the colonizer, and also the limited vision of some of the kings and chiefs allowed them to collaborate with the colonizers and to sell out their resources for pittance. This is a big topic and a growing topic in Africa.
Question in relation to that, to what you were saying. Some people, progressive thinkers in the West, when they look at kings, they see kings and queens. They look at kings and queens as people who were very much oppressive, or as the Rastaman would say, oppressive. In that some people claim by, especially in terms of leadership, in terms of ruling, they would say that they got it due to the bloodline. Example, currently you still have the British and people from and so on, Holland and so on. What is your take on that in terms of somebody claiming that, oh, I am king, I am ruler supreme? Like, for instance, like in previous years in Russia, where you had a Tsar until 1917 when it was overthrown, and so on. So what is your take? How you see that vis-a-vis what is taking place now?
Well, as I said, the European society is based upon brutal conquest. If you look at the Greek city-states and the role of an in-migrating group called the Spartans in an area called Laconia, whose inhabitants were latterly named or renamed the Helots. They were enslaved for 1,000 years. The population of slaves in Athens in 400 BC was 2/3 the population of Athens, and only small numbers were free people. The ability to vote was based on the acquisition of property and the leverage of property. And there were 5 classes of voting. The slave was completely X'd out. And that type of model survived until the 1920s in Europe, because you could buy a lordship in the House of Lords. You can pay for a knighthood in the House of Parliament. Money talked. Money was used as a form of exchange for position. And many of the former slave masters on the plantations, they bought their way into the aristocracy. And you change your demeanor and your friends by abandoning all those who suffered the same poverty as you did. Once you came out of it from the colonies and you came back, you acquired new friends based upon the acquisition of money, financial gain. And so you were catapulted into a totally different social and economic position. And you were seen differently and treated differently. So from the beginning, the European experiment with conquest was the annihilation and the complete oppression without rights of the enslaved or the serfs. And like I said, only in the 1920s did they bring about one man, one vote in Britain. And women were denied the votes throughout Europe. A place like Switzerland, the people think so much of as a progressive country, they didn't give the vote to women until 1975. it's a longer conversation, you know, that we can understand why. The
Yes.
history was like that. That is the history.
Yes.
The woman had no role in the family. The family was male oriented. The woman,
Well,
when she married, she had to move out of the house and serve the new God of her husband's family. She abandoned her own family, her father's and mother's gods, and accepted the new gods of her husband. And there wasn't even a city god. Everybody had a family god. Is that at some stage in its social development, number of families dug a pit, and they took earth from the yard of where their family god was placed. And each family threw a dirt into the pit. And that was now the new god emerged from that governed all those families. There never was a concept of universality of a one God in European society. But it already was established in Kemet long before 3100 BCE. That's over 5,000 years ago. That didn't happen amongst the Europeans.
Tell me something.
And when they did turn to God, they used God as an instrument of cruelty and death. They didn't use it to change their moral position. They used it to enslave people, to colonize people, to lobotomize them, change the culture, belief system, everything. So they never had up to now, they don't have a concept of God. Right now, they're arresting people for talking about Christ. If you talk about Christ in England, you can be arrested by the police.
So, Dr. Saakana.
Yes, sir.
Where we have today, and I see it as a in the form of using God as a where people use God in the form of to oppress other people. And I wonder, I ask a question, and asking you as a scholar of anthropology, cultural anthropology, God, when our people on the plantation, our ancestors, whether they were in North America, South and Central America, the Caribbean, when they ask and call upon this, whatever they define as God, or the Europeans taught us was God, and some of us took it on, or we held on to the same remnants of what before we even came to the West, because some of our ancestors held on to some practices, even though they tried to beat it out of them. What was this God when people were calling on this God on the plantation, and God never appeared to save our ancestors? How you see that? And
Well, there are two things to say, Brother Sekou. Number one is that those who were on the plantation for over 100 years were what we now call Creoles, were Creolized. They were something different. It is the new Africans who came after the abolition of slavery in the late 40s and 50s as indentured servants to the Caribbean. They are the ones who brought about the regeneration of African spirituality in the Caribbean. They are the ones, not the ones who were already seasoned and who were cruelly beaten, tortured, killed, and punished, and so on. But those new ones in Trinidad, what's his name? Professor Warner Lewis. She records that in Trinidad, in Central, there were Africans who were speaking Yoruba as a family in 1968. Tiger, the Calypsonian tiger. His father was a Congolese, his uncle was a Congolese, and never spoke English. He only spoke Congolese in Trinidad in the 1930s. So it's those ones who came after the end of slavery are the ones who maintained their culture because they were not subjected to plantation culture, which is rape, torture, bestiality, and all those other things that would make you lose your sense of self. It would. This is why that professor in America, Djehuty, is that her name?
Yes.
Yes, she is pursuing a very profound thread in your DNA. When you experience trauma, it inheres into creating a new DNA.
Joy, yes.
And a lot of African people, listen to what I'm telling you, in the West, they suffer from trauma. They lose their tempers very quickly. They're very sharp in their responses. They take offense very easily. A lot of those things came out of the slavery experience, which are inherent in their DNA. They're a new type of person today, you know. So we have to look at these scientific information that's coming out from a professor like this lady.
Yeah, Joy.
Joy Djehuty.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, very important because I recognize it in my own family.
Yes.
There's certain types of nervousness.
Yes.
Some people have nervousness.
And violent.
Yes, and it can't be explained.
Yes.
You can only be explained when you look at it scientifically and studiously. When you study it as a research, you have to put yourself objectively and study yourself as a research project, and you will see why you are the way you are.
Yeah.
So it's a big job. It's one thing to have look at all those people in the Caribbean who are now prime ministers and ministers. They all are doctors, PhD in this, and political scientists and so on. But culturally, they're doing the same things that the former colonists had done. They perpetuating the same thing in the Caribbean.
Exactly.
Why? Because once they have been educated in their institutions, they're not taught moral behavior. They taught only a profession. And when they see opportunity open to them to make money unimaginable before, they will do it. And they have done it. And they keep on doing it.
And therefore you get the same experience of sexploitation,
exactly.
sexploitation and stuff like that.
Yes.
I had to ask my aunt, one of my aunts in Montreal, a few years ago, to explain to me why my father and mother was so violent and brutal to my older brother. And I asked her the question. I said to her, why is it I saw that brutal violence to where we will call a sampat. You know what a sampat is?
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, did Dada and our grandmother were they violent to the they had about 11, 12 children. Were they violent towards their children? Were they violent towards my father? Why is it that I see that, and it scarred me to a great extent, because I couldn't understand it. And I used to tell my brother, I say, listen, that was brutality. That is a question of, my mother was born in 1914. My father was born in 1918. So that is at least about 75 years or thereabout, since, in terms of experiencing what we call the slave experience, on the chattel slavery experience. But yet, they still had remnants of that. That whole thing of that violent, which apparently would have been in the DNA somewhat. in terms of how the experiences that their great grandmothers and so on would have experienced from
The
the
slave master.
plantation.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes,
let me ask you a question.
yes.
This elder brother that you're talking about,
The one who
was
just
he,
passed.
eh?
The one who just passed.
Yeah, was he biologically a child of both your
Yes,
brother
yes,
and
yes, yes, yes,
biologically a
yes,
child?
yes, 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 yes. I couldn't understand it. But I had to, when I understand again, then I had to relate it back to the old question of the plantation.
Yeah. That's one explanation.
Generational curses. It's a generational curse.
I wouldn't say it's a curse because it can be removed by yourself.
Well,
it's not a curse, it's a DNA problem.
Well, I think
people are instinctive, they respond instinctively. They don't do it with thought.
And but my brother, even in the last year or two, when we would speak, and he would say how he was glad at how they dealt with him and how they that brutal kind of thing. And I say I can't be happy about that. These are that is not how you treat your children. That is something you would expect that they would have received that from their parents to be able to pass that on to now to their children. And my sister in St. Croix would say to me not too long ago, she said to me, our mother was a great mother, but only thing she was kind of mean. Come on. So these are the things that we have to address.
Yes,
exactly.
Healing has to take place.
Yeah,
but
we have to address these things.
Another thing is that I think the parents of those times, the punishment for misbehavior could be death when you're in an oppressive society. So that anxiety of trying to keep your children in line by all means, and that fear, I think they put that into their children because of fear. I think fear was a primary motivation in terms of going overboard with the discipline. But I want to get forward to this book here. We are here with one of the master teachers in the area of Kemet, and we are blessed by his presence. I want everyone to go to the website divfrontline.com, buy the book. What will they find in this work, Dr. Amon?
I've broken the book into only 4 chapters. It's a small book, it's not a big book, but it's a big thesis. One chapter deals with whether there was moral philosophy among the philosophers in Greece. I use Plato as my main example in great detail in some areas. Having done that, we then contrast the training of the philosopher in Kemet. That's one book, that's one chapter. Another chapter dealt with Kemet's own philosophical tradition. And another one deals with the Arabic use of information derived from ancient Kemet. In some detail, all of the books that were written, where they got the ideas from, they named them, some of the stories they retold in their own way and said that they originated it, but they did not, and so on and so forth. Some of the ideas that they have, like, for example, Idris. That name was given to him in Arabic, but he represented the figure of Jehuti, or the figure of Thoth, or Hermes, in Arabic culture. Among the Hurrians, the people in ancient Iraq, they call him Hoshank, and they also claimed, erroneously, of course, or should I say boastfully, that they came from Kemet. That is only to show the extent to which the culture had an influence on them. And during the time that Persia, as was then called, conquered Kemet on two occasions, they got some of the builders and designers from Kemet and took them back to Persia to build palaces and buildings for them in their country. All those things people don't know, but it's facts. Same thing with the Roman kings. They took some of the philosophers from Kemet to Rome so they could teach them Medunetcha and also the use of architecture. This is why you find there is an imitation of many of the basic type of columns and architectural styles extant in ancient Kemet. You see all over Europe. And they say, oh, this is Greek, this is Roman, this is called so-and-so, this is called adaptation. That's what it is. It wasn't original. All of the great classical buildings you have in Europe, they're imitations. There was no Europe that had that before. Oh, something I want to mention to you. I heard you say, both you and Brother Sekou said that Nubia has more pyramids than Kemet. It is a fact, but it is not more ancient than Kemet. That's after contact with the Kemet of the Pyramid Age, 2780 BC. From the Pyramid Age, especially from the 18th dynasty, when Nubia was conquered and fortifications built, then you see a mushrooming of ancient Egyptian style buildings being erected in Nubia. But it's not more ancient. They're more numerous in Nubia. And of course, much smaller as well than in ancient Kemet.
Yes.
But I just want to correct that and put it in perspective for you.
We're thankful for the correction. Ras Sekou, any other sound before we seal up?
I would like Professor Saakana to explain, because a lot of people get misled with what we call Medunetcha. I would like you to if you could give us or give the audience in a very much a synopsis way how you see Medunetcha. Some people see it. I look at it from as question of natural or divine speech, but could you expound on it somewhat?
Well, as you could see, I just said, it's composed of two words, Medu and Netcha. Netcha is not God. People translate it as God, just like the word Orisha is not God.
What is God?
It represents a force.
What is God, though?
Yeah. The word God scientifically did not exist in the language of the people of Kemet. What they offered was an explanation of the beginnings of the world as we now know it, a scientific explanation of the world, but in parable. You would have to be a scientist or someone who has scientific orientation to understand what those parables are. When you talk about I coughed out Sean Tefnut, coughed, that is perturbation, it's movement, eruption. Right?
Question, Saba.
Yes,
as you say that,
yes,
when some people, and I tend to have that view somewhat that the earth or came from, as some people say, it came from matter. Matter was the formation of what we call the universe, and matter cannot be created, neither can it be destroyed. Or that does you tie that? Could that be tied into what you just related just now?
Yeah. My way of looking at it is that I think the scientific grounds on which the people of Kemet vision the world with perturbation, with a pre-existing matter, it's not there in the Bible. There's no pre-existing world before God. There is an existing world in the Kemet view, perspective, worldview, and out of which this force emerged in the process of making, right? So it's contained, this is what they say, it's contained in one unit. All the forces are contained in this one unit. Millions of years, billions of years, I don't know. Nobody knows. And then this thing split through internal combustion. And every aspect of it formed different universes. We have our universe, but there are hundreds or thousands of whatever other universes as well from this one source. So everything that came from that, to use a common word, if God is contained in that, then everything that came out of that is also godly. You see? So this is why the concept of the divine ones emerged and was sustainable, because everything that came out of that first unit before explosion, until explosion, form what essential ingredients in the formation of that unit. And therefore, when it exploded, we carry the same consciousness as human beings and as other beings with us. That's a terrifying concept, but it's scientifically authenticated today.
Serious.
That was already envisioned since the Old Kingdom, 5,000 years ago. So back to the thing now, and then having done that, they created pairs, Shu and Tefnut, Gebanut, Wusia and Isata, who you know as Osiris and Isis. And they were the first earthly king and queen. So they have always envisioned the world as pairing. There's you're opposite, but you also complement each other. All the forces in the universe. There is sun and there is moon. There is up and there is down. There are various other stars and planets. Each have something powerful to do. The moon controls water and the ocean wave, right? So all of those forces we refer to as nature. The moon is a nature, the sun is a nature, the planets are natures, and even our revered ancestor is also a nature. So you can't say in Kemet, that the word is God. It's not God. In Orisha, it's not. You have many Orishas, but they're not gods. They are forces of nature. Forces, fundamental forces of nature. And those forces can be taught. It can be taught to human beings. And that is the major difference between how we see. We don't see God as all powerful man in the sky who will punish you if you do wrong. And in the Old Testament, advises his people, his chosen people, smash the baby's head against the rocks. Which God in Africa says that? Those images can only be can emerge from the forces of their own environment. That is what their gods did that in the Greek world. The gods behaved just like human. They were jealous. They were jealous of women. They always saw women as a threat, and so on and so forth. That's not so in Africa. If there's a king, there's a queen. If there's a high priest, there's a high priestess. If there's a temple singer male, there's a temple singer female. If there's a title-giving society for males, there are also title-giving societies for females. Always complementary. In some societies, the women chose the king. In some societies that are matriarchal or matrilineal, women play a very important role in the running of society, as with Ma'at, as with Hutho in Kemet. So these parallels, which are also utilized in divinity casting on the casting board amongst the Ifa, right? The Fa in Benin, and Afa amongst the Igbo. All the same word, Fa. Fa is common to them all. Ifa amongst the Yoruba, Afa amongst the Igbo, and Fa amongst the people from Republic of Benin. They have these divinity boards that are complementary. On the one side, they're odd. On one side, they're even numbers. And those numbers, when they are formulated, they could be interpreted as represented a certain kind of phenomenon. And since life is continuous throughout all of life, these recurrences happen again and again. So therefore, the divinity board, or divining board, cannot be out of date because it records and tabulates human experiences. So Medu Necha is divine word, Medu meaning word, right? Divine word. And those ideas, those philosophical ideas, are still encased and practiced in traditional African philosophy.
Well said, my dear brother. Kwasi, I don't know if you want to have the last word, but I would want to indicate that we should get a copy of Jehuty by Dr. Saakana. It is usually $23.95. We have also Ancient, the Cosmic Science of Ancient Masters, which is like $16.99. And you have Stone Legacy, which is like $11.95. You could go use the QR code on thefrontline.com and could pick up any of these 3 books or a combination of all. I am very edified with information that was passed on, and therefore, to me, everyone who is looking at the program or who hasn't looked at it and going to look at it at a future time should get a copy or copies of each of these books for your true berry, and as you would say. So I'm very thankful and I'm very grateful for you being on, and therefore the information passed on here tonight is very much rewarding. Kwasi, you want the climax?
Yes, yes. First, I wanted to give the doctor a chance to give any final words and tell and people how they can follow and support his work. Lion Pride, I'm asking everyone watching live, everyone who will watch this on the replay, to support. It's not every day we have a master teacher on the platform, and so we are very honored and humbled. So we're just asking for your final words and let people know how they can support the I work
Well,
outside.
I have we have a publishing company called Karnak House, and we have a website. It's karnakhouse.co.uk, in which the history of the organization is given, as well as the variety of books that we publish, scholarly and creative books of poetry. Publish numbers of books of poetry. We publish a lot of books on Caribbean and particularly on ancient African civilization. So for us, we'd be very gratified by having people at least to look at the type of books that we do publish at Karnak House. And since we're talking about the re-education of the African and the removing of the mist from his eyes and more the fog from his brain, reading positive books, scientific books, books that reinterpret African history and civilization and present information that is not normally available in the popular areas, in the mainstream. And I think the work that you're doing by bringing out this, I suppose it's monthly broadcast on books, it's a very, very, very good achievement. Something that many of us should be doing more of.
Definitely.
And this kind of discussion should be even more widespread. So I'm giving thanks for the presenters of the show for inviting me on and for starting this kind of dialogue, because it's not just one person speaking. We're engaging with each other, and we are passing on information to each other. So we're both lifted from it.
Give thanks.
Giving thanks.
And we have a rule here that if you come as a guest, you can't just come one time. So we will be looking forward to welcome you again, and reason more in depth. And again, we're enlisting our Lion Pride. Most people will watch this on the replay, so we're gonna ask them to go to the website dfrontline.com, purchase the book, so that when we bring forward the doctor, you can say, so many people bought the book after I came on the show. This is what we can do. We cannot stop bombs from falling in Tehran. We cannot stop bombs from falling in Dubai, in Qatar, and all of these things. What we can do is we can circulate our dollar among ourselves. We can educate ourselves. We can prepare ourselves internally. This is a time for us to go internal as a community, as individuals, and to build our capacity. Part of building that capacity is to read books, physical books, strengthen your mind, strengthen your attention, strengthen your focus. Nothing but good can happen from undertaking reading. And again, remember, we're transitioning, at least for a period with this war. I say it's a long war. It's going to be a long war. It's going to be a war of attrition. Yes. Energy centers are going to be impacted. Transportation, physical assets are going to become primary. And we see that already with the price of gold and silver skyrocketing. land, all of these things, physical, touchable things. Yes, the digital space is always going to be there and it will evolve, but for a time it will be unstable. We can't always guarantee you'll have access to Wi-Fi, good internet, because it's tied to the energy grid. And with what's happening with the Straits of Hormuz being closed, and all of these things globally, it will matter what you have in your personal library, your Trueberry, your books, your personal effects, the things that are really important, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And so it's very fitting that today we spend so much time on Jehuti, a man of wisdom, an ancestor of wisdom, because that is what books represent. As you know, Haile Selassie was the Minister of Education in Ethiopia. He reserved that portfolio for himself, setting the captives free by education. So we're big on education over here, and we are honored again by your presence, Doctor. Ras Sekou, you are a legend. Of course, we are honored by the eye as well. And global family, please, one more time, dfrontline.com. Buy the book. You should be budgeting by now. Every month, put aside $50 so you can buy one or two books. And remember, these make excellent gifts. Instead of buying your niece, your nephew sneakers or things that are not going to benefit them, buy them a book and explain to them that within that book lies their access to their own internal power. You know what I mean? Put it to them like them a superhero. They need to know that this knowledge is what will make them powerful. So with those few words, we do give thanks. We do have the IDOR study group taking place. I'll share the link with our Patreon family, and we've shared it in a WhatsApp group. If you want to join the Lion Pride WhatsApp group, send me a message. We can put you in the WhatsApp group. We are building slowly but surely across all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Follow us on any of those platforms. We will return tomorrow with a exclusive with the board of directors of IDOR. We're going to continue to give updates on this war in the Middle East. Armageddon, we are here, we are live, and we are not going to stop. Why? Because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
Blessed love, this is Rashala representing for the Lion Voice. See? Yeah, man. Keep it locked right there, sir.
Give thanks, Amon Saba
On to
Saakana,
Zion we
the
go.
Honorable Doctor.
Lion Voice
Great
don't move
doctor.
slow, no. Rastafari rules and reigns, and we're going where the blessings flow. Keep it locked right there, sir. Saying Rashala said that. Lion's Voice.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Rastafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like Ital. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
I will never stop, hail the Most High, and I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Empress Manel, a lion, science, oh. be told. Oh. Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the lion's voice, Rastafari.
Yo, blazing fire, yeah man, this is Ras out of Belize, and the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, right? Yeah man, we blaze fire, burning the wicked and the dirty vampire. Yeah man, Ras said that, blazing fire, lion boy.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Rastafari.
Yeah, David Trent of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the lion voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Oh, yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.